Hello, come in, come in, come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the self love series. Now, there is no end to the self love series, there's no end to this conversation. God's word tells us that we should love ourselves first after we love Him. We were created in the image of God. And so, as a dating coach, one of the principles, or should I say the main principle that I teach through, is that you should love your neighbor as you love yourself. But of course, how can you do that? How can you give love if you haven't given love to yourself? You can't give what you do not have. So if I said to you right now, give me an orange, you can only give me an orange if you actually have it in your hand. And if I'm next to you, right? But you can't give me what you do not have. So in the same token, if you do not have self-love for yourself, how do you then hand it over to someone else? You see, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So I often find that is the actual problem, one of the main problems when it comes to coaching. I remember when I was a younger lady, I remember I used to walk this particular road to work, and I'm one of those individuals that I love dressing. I love dressing up. And I remember there was this particular woman on that street, and I had word that she said to another neighbor, who does she think she is? Why does she have to dress so nicely to go to work? And when that information message was relayed back to me, I don't know if it was said in a way to diminish me. I mean, the person that actually told me the information, they were just relaying it. And I thought to myself, why should I change myself to match another person's needs? In other words, why should I shrink myself to fit that other woman's needs? Never ever shrink yourself. And so in fact, instead of actually making me kind of like shrink within myself, it actually made me expand. I took it as a compliment. So never shrink away from who you are. Shrinking away from who you are is not self-love. God has given you a vessel, and He's given you a vessel for a reason. When I was in Our Lady's Convent, I remember I had a best friend. Her name was Angela Horan. Maybe one day Angela Horan will hear this message, because we haven't touched base in years. And I remember when I used to walk down the road with Angela Horan, a lot of people, sometimes people would actually stop and say, "Excuse me, are you a nurse?" And I used to say to her, "Why do people keep asking you that question?" She used to say, "I don't know." Angela Horan was Caucasian, she was Irish, had shoulder-length blonde hair. And, she was just quite big-boned. But for some reason, people thought that she was a nurse. She looked like a nurse. And she actually eventually grew up to be a nurse. And the reason why I'm sharing that story is that God equips you with everything that you need. He equips you for your function. He equips you for your assignment. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, embrace yourself. Embrace what you see. You don't need another person to look at you and say, "Oh, you look good." Often I'm told, "Oh, Valerie, you look as if you belong in media or TV." Take heed of what you hear, especially if it's a commonality. It's something that you've heard in repetition. It gives you an indication, even if you cannot see it yourself. Sometimes you can lean on someone else's belief of who you are until it begins to before you begin to self-actualize and claim that as your own. Again, I remember going out with a friend for a meal, and he's a guy who helps people get into Hollywood. He helps them with their CDs, the way they present themselves, all that sort of thing. And I remember again saying to him, like, how do you know how to cast people for their roles? And he said to me, Valerie, he said, look around. And I looked around and he said, you see that lady over there? And I looked across, there was a woman. He said, what role would you cast her in? And I said, well, she looks like a nurse to me. And he said, exactly. He said, she looks like a nurse. So if I cast her in a role where she looks like the part, then she'll more than likely get the part than somebody who looks like they're made for a body lifting part, you see. And that made total sense for me. And I thought, well, if a human being can think like that, would not God think like that too? You see, you have been equipped for your function. God has given you everything that you need to succeed. But the thing is, if you don't believe that you have everything that you need to succeed, you're not going to walk in the energy of that, are you? Another quick story before I sign off. Yesterday, I came home and I was looking for my keys, as we all do. I'm sure you've had that problem as well. And I ran up the stairs and I had everything. I had my purse in my hand. And I thought to myself, where's these keys? Like I've just literally came in. I wanted to use the toilet. And then I ran back downstairs and I just couldn't find my keys. I thought, I haven't travelled far. Where could it be? And my spirit said, look in your hand. And I looked in my hand and it was in this little purse that I had. And I thought to myself, my gosh, how many times do we do that? We're running around looking for a solution to a problem when we actually already have the solution. But the thing is, if you do not realize that you have the solution to the problem, you will continue to look for the solution. In other words, you will actually perpetuate the problem, you see. So, but if you can employ the fact that you have everything that you need, that the solution is already there for the problem, and walk in that energy, walk with that faith, then it takes you down a completely different trajectory. You see, the self-beliefs that you have always want to be actualized. They always seek to be actualized. And it's done through a process called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. So this is where your brain accepts. Remember, the mind is servant to the spirit and the body is servant to the mind. Spirit, mind, body. And so when you tell the mind something, it then causes your behavior to change its new mental conversation, because it works in conformity with what you're telling up here. Okay, it wants everything to be in alignment. So what are you telling yourself today? Know that you are equipped. You are equipped for your function here on earth. And go out and serve humanity with your skills, your talents, and your gifts. Now, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I want you to change your perspective. I want you to change and reframe how you see yourself. I want you to see yourself in a positive light. I want you to see yourself as light. See, when you reframe your mind, you are then able subconsciously to give permission for others to do the same. You don't need permission from another person to be who God created you to be. What you need to do is to let go of the illusions, the delusions that your programming has led you to think. To change your perspective. Now, on that note, I have a new book out in September called, guess what it's called? Perspective. And you can go right now to www.campbell.com www.valerieacampbell.com/perspective and order your copy now. As always, I pray that this message has touched somebody. Hold your head up high. Know that you're equipped for your function and that God always has your back. As always, the divine in me bows to the divine in you. And for that link that I mentioned, you will find it below. God bless and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.